Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another vintage block for you. This one is called the Tulip Lady Finger block, and here it is. This one is actually a beginner friendly block, and I think if you can do half square triangles, this block will be easy for you. So I'm going to adjust the camera and show you how to make this block. Here are the fabrics that you're going to need to make the Tulip Lady Finger block. For piece A, you need a 4.5 inch square. B is 4 2.5 inch squares. C is 4 3 inch squares. D is 4 4.5 inch squares. E is 4 2.5 inch squares, and F is 4 3 inch squares. First thing we're going to do is make the half square triangles, so we need the C and the F squares, and you can draw a diagonal line on the back of the F squares from one corner to the next, and sew a 1/4 inch away on both sides after you put these right sides together. Just take your F squares and get a straight edge. Let me pull this up out of the way. And go from one corner to the next, and then draw a line. You can use a pencil, you can use a marker, you can use an ink pen, a friction pen, whatever you're comfortable with, and draw that line. And then we're going to pair this up with a C square, and then sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of that drawn line. And there we go. I've got all four of mine marked. Now you can use triangle paper if you own that or want to buy that, and you can make your half square triangles with that. So I'm going to adjust the camera and start making these half square triangles. The thread that I'm using is an Aurifil. This is color 2021. It's 100% cotton. Okay, I'm going to place these right sides together. And then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that drawn line. And I got my stitch length set to 2.0. Now I'm going to cut these apart on the drawn line. And you can use your rotary cutter if you want to. It's not really that critical for this to be accurate because your seam's already sewn. So this is just your seam allowance here. Okay. Now I'm going to press these all towards the blue. So I have my half square triangle. So I'm going to press, and then I will trim off the dog ears. Okay, so I have all of my half square triangles pressed, and they're pressed towards the dark, and I trimmed off all the dog ears, so they're ready to go. These half square triangles were made with 3 inch squares, so they're a little bit large. They need to measure 2.5 inches, and they're going to be just a little bit big. So if I lay my ruler on top of that they are just a little bit larger than 2.5. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my diagonal line with the seam and measure it at the 2.5 inch mark here, and then trim off the extra. It won't be a whole lot extra, but it will be some, and it will make things go together easier if I have this trimmed off. So that's the right size. So let's do that with all of them. Line up the seam with the diagonal line. So this one's quite a bit bigger. And I'm just going to do these one at a time. There we go. Okay, so we're all ready to start putting these units together. Next thing I need to do is to make the 4-patch units, and that's going to require the B squares and the E squares and the half square triangles. So I'm going to show you how these are going to lay out. The B and the E squares are going to go opposite each other, and then I'm going to put the half square triangles opposite each other like this. So that's how that goes together. So I'm going to stack 4 of these on each side. And the same over here. This makes 3 and 4. And now I'm ready to sew these into rows. So I'll sew this row and then this row. Okay, so I have all of my pieces pressed, so I'm going to stack them up again, and then get these 4. So here we go. That's the unit I want to make. So now I need to sew these together, and I just need to nest my seams together and then sew down here. So I'm going to go ahead and place a pin in there and then sew that seam. Okay, and we'll cut these apart and press them open, and then I'll be ready to lay out the block. So there is the unit that I was working on. So I'm going to press towards the yellow square on these. Okay, now I'm going to lay out the block. So I'm going to start in the center with the A piece, and then I need to put these D pieces on each side of it. So this is a pretty simple block. This is one a beginner could do. And then the 4-patch units will go in the corners with the yellow facing the center, like that. So that's all laid out. And now all I need to do is to sew it together in rows and then sew the rows together. So I'll adjust the camera and you can watch me do that. I'm going to use sew the first 2 pieces in each row together. And I do have a point here, so I'm going to go ahead and sew that one from that side so that I can see it, and just line up my edges here. And my goal is to sew just to the right of that so that I don't cut off the tip of the point. Okay, these are the first 2 pieces of the second row, and we have the white square and the yellow square. So there's nothing to match, so I can just sew them. And then the pieces of the last row also have a point. So I'm going to do the same thing I did the first one. Turn it so I can see the point. And then as I'm sewing, I can watch it and make sure I don't cut off that tip. Okay. Now I'm going to cut these apart. I'm going to place them right back in the block, so that way I don't sew the last pieces onto the wrong side. Since I did flip these, they're not in the correct orientation at the moment. Because if I just open that and sew the next piece to it, that would be wrong. It needs to go this direction. So I'm going to sew this end piece, this corner, to here, and I once again have a point to watch. So I'm going to turn it so that I can see that point. Row 1, finish row 2, and that's just 2 single squares, so no points to match. And then row 3. And I'm going to watch that point. Okay, so I got all 3 rows. I'm going to lay them back and press, and then I will sew the rows together. Okay, now let's sew the rows together, and I'm going to match up the seams, and I am going to pin put my pin cushion on. And match up the ends, and we're going to sew. And once again, I'm watching the points so that I don't cut them off. There's a point right here. row 1 and 2, and let's take a peek at that. That looks pretty good. So rows 1 and 2, and then I'm going to add row 3 and do the same. We're going to pin those seams so that they will nest together. And then line up the edges and sew. Okay, so here we go. So now I'm going to press the block and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so here is the block, and I just need to press the last 2 seams that I made, and I'm going to press them towards the center. So you see when I flip this over, that's kind of the way they want to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. First I'm going to press them flat, and then I will press them towards the center. Pull my loose threads out. Okay, here we go. So this is the Tulip Lady Finger block. Well, that's it for the Tulip Lady Finger block. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll give this block a try. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.